Had Eva's before, by the way, and it's really, really good. So I'm envious I wasn't in Toronto for this. But today I got Haven's Creamery ice cream, located on Piccadilly in London, Ontario, and it's all like hand churned made ice cream. And I got mint chocolate chip flavor. That's
Mint
my
chocolate
favorite
chip.
flavor. I'm one of those people.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. You're listening to the Cool Table. We are in the cut with Mercedes Kasha.
Hello.
So you are located in London, and we don't often get to talk to people from London. So big shout out to London for making their way onto the Cool Table today. But of course, that means that you had to get your ice cream your own way. Usually we have Eva's chimneys bring the ice cream around. Shout out to everyone over there. But tell us about your situation you got going on ice cream wise.
I've had Eva's before, by the way, and it's really, really good. So I'm envious I wasn't in Toronto for this. But today I got Haven's Creamery ice cream, located on Piccadilly in London, Ontario, and it's all like hand churned made ice cream. And I got mint chocolate chip flavor. That's
Mint
my
chocolate
favorite
chip.
flavor. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I was about to say we have a long history of mint chocolate chip on the show. Personally, I am absolutely not a fan. Mint chocolate chip seems like one of those flavors. I'm like, oh,
You love or hate. It's like cilantro. You love or hate.
yeah, yeah. Because I know people that love it like you, and then for me, it makes me cringe just the thought of it. So you're one of those. We'll put you in that group today as one of those people. But those people usually have a good chance of finishing the ice cream. So my hopes are high. My hopes are high.
We'll see, we'll see. And it's not like a bright green color, so you know it's legitimate.
Okay, okay, yeah, that's better as well. That bright green
Yeah.
color is also very cringy. So
Yeah,
well, knowing
exactly.
that it's not that is good as well. Um, I'm so excited to talk to you today because we're talking about a Global Toronto 2021, and I've been just so enamored with some of the stuff that's been going on virtually over the past year. I feel like I am the king of Zoom at this point. I've done so many Zooms, watched so many live performances, so many live shows.
Mhm.
So it's like I'm almost more prepared for this going forward than real life. But of course, real life is going to come at some point. Can you talk about, there's just a difference in, because you've done festivals both ways, in real life, real people before this Panzerati, as well as virtually. So talk about the difference between just planning for those two things.
Oh, well, the planning is completely different. I find that, each version has its own challenges and like insane I think a lot of people think, oh, you're just going online, it should be super easy, but absolutely not. And I admit I was probably one of those people at the beginning of last year that thought the same thing. It should be easy, it's just getting video. No, there's so much logistic involved, and especially because everyone is digital, everyone's away. You can't just throw out an answer and then expect one back immediately. It takes a long time to email, to send files, to connect with new contract workers if you need a new contract worker, because obviously there's more focus on video and editing and the final production of back and forth of transferring files. And it takes so much longer, I find, to have an end product. Whereas in person, it's the planning is year round, if not longer, for a big event, especially a big festival. But at the same time, it's like once you're done, once you're secured one, it's kind of done until you move on to the next item, as opposed to back and forth so much for everything. And I would say the difference in terms of the final product, well, it's obvious, right? Like it goes without being said in terms of it being live, being in front of the stage or behind it, and just feeling that joy and that bass in your chest, and like just so exciting to see the crowd form. I mean, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, and so excited to go back to it. But at the same time, the commonality I think between the two ways is that you're supporting the artist, and the artist is still going to work. You're still supporting tech engineers, you know what I mean? You're supporting that venue if they're shooting in a different venue. You're still serving your audiences in a different way or different format. So there are some commonalities, and the difference is that because it's not in one stagnant place, it's online. It can be accessed by anybody. So the accessibility term is huge, and that's a silver lining, I suppose, of everything, is that the fact that not only can you reach further and broader audiences, but those who may not have necessarily been able to come to a venue just for pure physical accessibility purposes, or simply they're afraid of crowds, they don't like being in one, or just they can't make it, they need a babysitter to come out, that it allows them to tune in. So that accessibility factor is really golden. So I think and I hope that people will continue to do some digital programming, or a hybrid, in order to ensure that those audiences specifically are still being served.
I love what you said about it being so golden, because one thing that is huge when it comes to festivals for me in particular is trying to see two people at the same time. You got so and so on this stage and so on this stage. You can't decide. And virtually, we've kind of fixed that. There's virtually you don't use
Mm-hmm.
that same problem, so you get to see every single person. So that's another thing on top of it, where it's like I do kind of hope for a mix in that sense, because having to choose between two artists to see, you sometimes you get a little bit of both, but you rather not have to choose at all. So I like that
Totally.
we've gotten that place with the festival. Sunfest, I thought was so cool, that y'all did it kind of still on time when it came to the festival, because I that was a huge thing. Was when this whole thing started, it was like, is the world ending? Will I never play music? Like, it was really a lot of that going on. So when things were postponed, there was not really a date in mind. It was postponed indefinitely. We'll see. And with Sunfest, you were able to kind of bring it all together and not have to go through that. Can you talk about that miraculous experience and putting that together?
Well, it was a lot, because when this whole situation was happening, a lot of festivals were just full on canceling or postponing, I guess, until this year when supposedly everything was going to come back, and then the odd festival would go virtual, or at least show archival footage of stuff that they hadn't released before, which I thought was pretty cool. And for Sunfest, it took us a little while to really think, okay, should we do it? Should we not? And then ultimately, given that we are in London, Ontario, I mean, there's very few organizations that present what we do, and that's culturally diverse music, and especially representing those underrepresented communities, because it's largely dominated by commercial culture here, especially of the rock, pop, and country genres. And so we're like, if we're not doing it, who's doing it, and who's serving our audiences that are typically served? And yeah, we'll get comments of, "Ugh, it's digital. What's the point?" And again, the point is continuing to serve the audience, but also supporting that artist. And so for Sunfest, we're like, well, we still have to, and also we do get grants, so it's like we want to use these funds. We want to make sure that they are used. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen to the budget next year? We want to make sure those are going to the people that need it the most and that deserve it the most. And essentially those are the artists that we present nationally and internationally. And so what we did was that we said, okay, let's just do 2 days and figure out, how it goes. And, based on other streams that were happening at the time, we were keeping an eye on people's retention rate, like our own proper retention rate. Like, would we stick in for something for 4 hours, or for just half an hour feel too short? So we hit it around the 2.5 hour mark. And ultimately it felt too short for us when it finally did happen. We ended up doing 2 nights. We presented 18 bands, half international, half national. And people were messaging us saying, "Oh my gosh, we wish it was for longer," and it was so great to see them. And it was a joyful thing, because I think we were one of the first summer festivals to go live and honoring our dates. And we said, okay, we could wait and see if we do something in fall, but what if this continues? And it did. But we figured, okay, let's do something these dates. Let's honor these dates. That way it still stays consistent in people's mind. And then if something comes in the fall, we'll do something then to celebrate coming back to life again. And that's kind of still the plan right now.
I'm very happy that you guys have got that done. And I like you said, things coming back to life, because that is literally what it feels like. Like things are
Yeah.
basically starting up all over again. When you're planning something like Global Toronto 2021, where do you start? Where's kind of the first conversations? Where are they directed? What is the first things you're looking at in terms of programming? Because there's so much. So where do you even kind of begin, and how does that expand into what it becomes?
Well, I think the first question was, do we plan for the hopeful in person or the hybrid or the virtual? And we as a team decided, let's just go virtual and commit to virtual. And if a month or two before we see things are opening up and something can happen, then we do something in person and plan something with our venue partners in Toronto. But let's make sure that we're being safe and we're going virtual, and then we can ensure as well that we can still incorporate a lot of the international delegations and partners that we did partner with. So essentially, we did start off with, just as in 2020, community consultations. So we consulted with people who partnered with us in Global 2020 or Global Toronto 2020, venue partners, artists, other presenters around the country and in the region, international partners and delegations. What is it that you liked about Global Toronto 2020 and other virtual conferences? And what would you like to see moving forward? So there was, I think, like over 60 consultations that were happening before we went virtual, just to kind of ensure that not only like if we go forward, is it still relevant? Is it still needed? But also, what would you like to see? How can we change up the programming? How can we do better, essentially? And how can we ensure that we're serving and partnering with as many people as possible? Because it is very much a collective approach, and we acknowledge that at all times, the contribution of so many people who came to the table and helped us out with everything. And so with Global Toronto 21, we decided, let's go that collective approach again. Let's do a jury system for the artist selection. We got over 200 applications of artists to showcase for Global Toronto, and that jury of 5 people narrowed it down to 22. That was an incredible job that they did. That was a lot of work. And we also engaged a programming committee. We didn't want to have just one director for programming all the different things. We had different voices come to the table, and we had huge weekly discussions with them saying, what is it that people are talking about right now? What are the social issues that are happening? What are the political issues that are affecting our industry as well? And how are we moving forward? Who are the people that, when those issues come about, who are the people who are actually doing actionable change, or proposing actionable change? So that's the way that we went about it. And then eventually it was about, what platform do we deliver it on? How do we go about ensuring that people can access it as best as possible? What's the highest quality production that we can get? And then finding partners as well to do that, because I think there's a huge misconception with going online that it's cheaper. But it's not, and sometimes it's actually a lot more expensive, just to get something online, get something on a user-friendly interface. Everything like that costs so much money. Anything as much as having captions and translation, like those are things that you wouldn't think about, and then you have to account for all those little details to ensure you're as accessible as possible and that people can understand as much as possible what's going on. So we also brought another partner to the table, the International Indigenous Music Summit, and with them we decided to go in on a platform together, and we had our dates back to back. Actually, one week, the first week of June was them, and the second week was us. And so we had the same platform. We called it the Minode A platform, which was hosted on Swapcard. And then we also brought on the Amped a music summit as well, put on by Advance. And so that was on the 19th of June following Global Toronto. So, and then we're going to continue to use that platform for our events and any other partnering events that want to come on board in order to make that accessible, because it is a pretty intense process to get a platform for online, just to have that user friendly interface.
I love that you mentioned how really hard it is to bring things, to life virtually, because I really think that, you said that was you earlier. I used to think like that as well, but like people really had to understand how difficult it is. A friend of mine was putting together a homebody festival. This is about a year ago now, and he's telling me about what they're doing in the 2 days leading up to it, and I'm like, it seems like you have 6 weeks of work left to do and 48 hours left to do it. So, and it is a very, very tough job, and I agree with you. Definitely should not be taken for granted, but impressive, nonetheless. Just to give those opportunities to those artists as well, and the panelists, and having those conversations. One that I like a little bit that I want to kind of mention before we go on to some tips that you have for people talking about writing grants and things like that is the panel about the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land. What is next? I thought that was a very, very important conversation to have because, it is almost turns of steps where we've taken a step now where acknowledging the land is
Hmm.
just something we do. It's normal now. It's not out of place. It's basically the new anthem, you know. And
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
that we've gotten to that place. But of course, there's huge steps to be taken. So I love that conversation was highlighted. In terms of writing grants, and I had the opportunity being part of the RBC entrepreneurial program, and a lot of it was talking about writing grants, getting for the projects you want to do. And I can imagine you have done a ton of that through the festival. So do you have any grant writing tips out there, whether it's someone wants to put together their own little show, their own festival, whether it's
Hmm.
artists who want to get stuff for their projects? What are some grant writing tips that you have for anyone who's trying to get some money added to their project?
I would say, oh God, there's so many. There's so many tips. I guess if I'm reviewing, let's say, a grant application from an artist, I would say put your best material forward. And that goes not only with grants, but let's say with showcasing applications, applying to conferences, etc. Like make sure it's quality stuff that you're putting forward, not just something on a cell phone to say, oh, that way they can see how versatile I am. It's like, no, put the best quality forward of what you have, right? And also describe the impact to the community as well for or what community is that you're serving. I think a lot of artists don't realize that they're always serving a community. They always are, they're always representing somebody as well. And especially acting as role models to others as well. And I think that a lot of the time, yeah, I've gotten grant apps or I've seen jury applications where, they'll have like a cell phone video from a fan in the crowd. And if they don't have that, that's okay. Maybe explain why it is you haven't had the funding in order to create a great video. And it doesn't have to be a produced video. It just needs to be you on stage. You just plug into the soundboard, and that way you have quality sound, because that first and foremost, that's what we want to hear the most is the sound. Like, how is it that you sound live? In terms of the presenter, well, again, getting as many support letters as possible, and that goes to the artist as well. I think just showing that you have a network of people that will support you in terms of attending your event, sponsoring your event, whether in kind monetarily or just partnership in general. I think just showing that community impact is the most valuable, regardless of anybody that's going to be grant writing. And I would say be as precise as possible with your writing. I don't think there needs to go into a lot of the historical detail. I think go into as much of like the key points of the path of the career path or the journey of the presenter or the organization is really, really crucial, because a lot of these grant committees, they read like 60, 70 applications in like 3 days. So it's like what's going to stick out as much as possible. And again, speak to that impact of what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're presenting, and how you've evolved and what your future plans are. And also be very clear with your budget. Very, very clear with your budget, because I think a lot of the people who go and do these grant juries, they look at that very closely as well, in terms of like how your budget's worked out. So it should be based on actual data, like as in if you're putting in for flights, okay, I looked them up on Google and this is how much it costs, as opposed to I think it costs $1,500 for this. So I think just doing as much research as possible. And it's funny because we were talking about this in a breakout session during Global Toronto, of how at the end it says how long it took you to write this grant, and one of the options is like 90 minutes or less. And we all just laughed at that and saying that is not true. And they should take that option off, because that is not the case. Grants take days, if not weeks, to write. And so, therefore, really make sure you have enough time. If there's a grant application due the very next day and you just found out about it, perhaps call that grant officer. You never know. I doubt they'll give leeway, but I don't know if you're going to put your best work forward if you just have 24 hours to write it, because it really is an in-depth type of thing, especially if you're asking for tens of thousands of dollars. They're going to nitpick at the details of what goes into that.
I love that 90 minutes for a grant season under. Oh my, that was a good one.
I
That
wanted to
was
know
a
who
good
that
one.
was, who wrote that, and can I pay them in hugs,
For
please,
for
because I
sure.
would love for them to come and write with me.
I said whoever it is, I gotta hire him. I gotta hire him.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You brought up so many good points, and I think that this whole lack of information when it comes to writing grants and that process is something that I think I would love for us to help change, and that's why I'm happy to
Mhm.
have able to have this conversation and share this information because there's a group that doesn't even know that the grants are available and that there is this help out there for you.
Huge. Hmm.
And then as well, there's a group that doesn't know how to even get that help, tackle that. So I think we got to kind of.
And it's done that way for a reason, right? Because essentially it filters down the pool of people who would apply, but it shouldn't. Everyone, it should be accessible to everybody. And I think one of the things that people don't do is call the grant officer, whoever's in charge. Call them, ask questions like, how can you word things a little bit better? They'll give you those tips. That's what they're there for. And I think a lot of people are afraid to maybe call them, but then that way you create that relationship with the grant officer as well. They might let you know, oh, in previous applications we've seen this. I don't know. It depends on the officer, but and depends on the program as well. And so I think there is some gold information that is held there just by picking up the phone and calling the grant officer. It's so important.
It is huge. I had a grant that I was ready to hand in, and I had contacted both grant officers, and I hadn't heard back from them, and it was maybe 3 or 4 days coming up to the date, and they ended up calling me within 15 minutes, and basically I had to start my whole grant all over again. So
No.
whatever I thought I knew was wrong, but
Yeah.
it helped along the way. And then again, the grant that I got that helped get the ice cream for the show that helped a lot of things come in place. I had someone walking me through kind of a lot of the steps and what they're looking for, how to make sure my budget was on
There you
point.
go.
And having that person, to help you give that information is helpful. So I'm happy you mentioned that as well because we are sometimes afraid to call that grant person. It's like that's literally their job.
Yeah.
Literally their job
Yeah.
is for you to call them. I saw that you are a big fan of movie soundtracks, and I was so excited to ask you about this because I had not thought of my top lists of movie soundtracks, but in thinking about this, I jotted some movies down quickly. So I want to
Oh,
hear
please tell me.
some
I'm
of my
so curious.
yeah, I want to hear what you think of some of my favorite movie soundtracks,
Yes.
and then as well I want to hear some of yours. The first one
Okay.
I had down was Tarzan. Um,
Hmm.
love Phil Collins. I thought that whole album was just very, 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 very poignant to me. So that was one I had in here. Another one was Dreamgirls.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
love that soundtrack a lot. A lot. Some of those songs from that soundtrack I even have downloaded on Spotify. So big shout out to that one. And then Queen and Slim. That's a more recent one. But
Mm,
Queen
hmm.
and Slim, I felt like there was a lot of songs in there that just perfectly helped tell the story. So what do you think about my top three so far? And I want to hear some of yours.
I love them. I think those are really great choices. Are you like me that you kind of base your favorite movies on the soundtrack itself? I don't know.
It's a huge part of
Yeah,
it. It's a huge
it's
part
a
of it.
massive part. Yeah. Just having like, those certain scenes where it just, oh, the music just goes so well with it. And then you have those movies which are really artsy and really great and amazing, but they have zero music in them. And for me, I'm just kind of like, what's happening here? Like, how am I supposed to feel? I feel like the music helps me understand the feeling that's trying to be portrayed in the movie.
Exactly. And I'm a big music person where it's like I can't not hear music. Like I'll watch playoff games and I'll hear the music playing in the arena and be rapping along to the music and just
Yeah.
while the game's going
Yeah,
on.
or you
So
think of like, I'm watching Euro Cup right now or like the
mhm.
football games, that are happening. And so the drumming, everything, like it just adds so much intensity.
Yeah, you just can't not hear it. I know exactly what you mean. So it's like the movie, these soundtracks are just a huge part of it. It's like remember when they were crying and that song was playing? Like that's how I kind of remember the movie. So I'm totally with you on that one. I want to hear what some of your top ones are. What do you have kind of in that upper echelon in terms of movie soundtracks?
I think in terms of movie soundtracks, I really love a lot of the Sofia Coppola movie soundtracks that she has, like Lost in Translation. And I find that they go really well with that calming, like serene sort of cinematography that she always has. I think she pairs that really well. I really recently like Soul, the Pixar movie. I thought that was incredible. The fact that they were introducing jazz, jazz, especially to a new demographic, a new generation. I thought that was incredible. And I'm a huge Trent Reznor fan. So he did that with Atticus Ross as well. So it was a really nice mix of totally different genres in my mind that just kind of went together in one movie. I thought they did fantastic for that. It's not a movie, but this show on Netflix called Gentified or Hentified. So it's about a Los Angeles community that's getting gentrified, but it's largely Latin American, Mexican, and so or Latinx community, and so therefore a lot of the soundtrack in there is very, very urban Latinx music that I really, really enjoy, but also throwbacks to some like really good oldies that like I used to listen to as a kid. So it just brought in that nostalgia factor to me, that otherness that they feel, because it's like some, people are born in the States, but they come from very heavily Latin American roots. But then it's just kind of that otherness, that in between of the two cultures, the North American culture and the Latin American culture, and I thought that was really cool. So I really like those. Those are the ones that stick out in my head right now.
I think that's a good one what you said about that show on Netflix, because sometimes music can kind of describe two things coming together or an emotion better than you can visually. And sometimes there's a
Hmm.
perfect
Hmm.
song for that feeling or a perfect song for that moment. So I think that's perfect. And
Yeah,
then Soul is Soul's probably my most watched movie of last year. Like I've seen Soul so many times. Um,
same.
yeah, you got no complaints from me on that one. Um, I'm doing this thing called a live list. And, I'm going to give you
Okay.
my live list first because, like a lot of music fans, a lot of live music fans, I had tickets to some shows and this damn parallelogram put a stop to all of that. So
Hmm.
I got some people who I had tickets to that I didn't get to see live. And then as well, I have a couple of people who I absolutely have to see. Now, I had tickets for Brent Fayez, um,
Hmm.
which I would have got to see him, and then I had tickets for Maroon 5 as well. So those would have been two shows I'd have loved to see. I've never seen either of them before, so that would have been two firsts for me. And then someone who I really, really want to see, and my fingers are still crossed because this person has not even come to Canada in maybe 12 years. I don't even know. Is D'Angelo.
Hmm.
So
Oh, yeah.
if somehow I
And
could
he
see
just dropped a new
D'Angelo,
album last year too, right? Or the year before, was that?
yep, yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
So if
Yeah,
I
that'd
can
be
see
amazing.
D'Angelo, I'm a happy guy.
That'll be a good show. Yeah, let me know if you find out because yeah, I would love to go. Last year, I'm trying to think of the different tickets. So I had tickets to go see the Black Pumas. So that never happened. And then who else did I know I had a few. Oh, trying to think. I don't remember of which, but obviously, like all the bands that were supposed to come to Sunfest, they didn't come. That was a
That was
real big
hurtful.
bummer. Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, I hope I can go see the Black Pumas soon. There was also oh, Arlo Parks. I was supposed to go see
Oh,
Arlo Parks, and she, or I think it's they are amazing. And so I think that's rescheduled for the fall, but now it's sold out. So that's awesome. Hopefully I'll know somebody. I don't know. Get in there. And then yeah, I know, fingers crossed. And then yeah, I think I would on my bucket list would be Kendrick Lamar. I would love to see Kendrick Lamar and Anderson .Paak. Huge, huge fan of those
ooh,
too. Especially Anderson .Paak. Oh my gosh, love.
oh,
I
I
got to see, actually that was my very last show. BP was a show to the Free Nationals in Toronto.
oh
So that was really cool. So that's his like his band that he
yeah, no,
tours with, and
I had tickets to that show and I was sick and I had to give them away. But I
bummer.
but I've seen Anderson Paak, so I feel a little guilty now. Because I see Anderson Paak better than advertised. Better than
Oh,
advertised.
really?
Yeah.
Actually, that was a really great show that I saw. The last festival I went to is Osheaga in Montreal, and I saw Childish Gambino, and that was such an intense show. I felt like I was watching the future Michael Jackson on stage because he's just so multifaceted in the way that he performs. Like it's performative. He sings well, he raps well. He has tons of musicians and singers on stage. I thought that was just so incredible.
Yeah, he's one I gotta see. I gotta add him to the list as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oceaga, the last time I was there, I saw Kanye and Chance, so that was pretty cool. And
Oh, right on. Yeah.
I've seen Kendrick Lamar twice. I gotta say this. I like Kendrick Lamar, but the two times I saw him were underwhelming. I hope that doesn't deter you from getting to see him. Yeah, yeah. It was at the first time he opened for Kanye, I said, you know what? Opening for Kanye is tough. You're not gonna win
Hmm.
that crowd. That's a tough one. I gave him a
Yeah.
pass for that. And the second time was the championship tour when it was him, J Rock, SZA was sick, so she didn't come.
Hmm.
Schoolboy Q, sir. And the biggest cheer of the night was when J Rock came out and did his verse on Money Trees during Kendrick Lamar's set. And I said, ooh, that hurts a little bit that J Rock just stole that from you. But
Ooh.
yeah, I love your list. Black Pumas, those guys have a special place in my heart. So I
Yeah,
hope
always constantly comes on my playlist, always without even meaning to. It just,
always.
I don't know.
They,
The playlist knows.
they were one of the few bands. I used to be the music director at CJRU, and they are one of the few bands that when I played their album the first time, I actually played the entire thing. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, they got a real special place for me. This next question we ask everyone because they say the top 5 people in your life help you be you. So who are the top 5 people in your life who help you be yourself? Now your top 5 doesn't have to be 5. It can be a top
Okay.
2 or a top 10, but who are the people in your life who help you be you?
I would say my dad is number one. For one, I think he's really influenced me in terms of my career path a lot, and inspired me a lot with his perseverance of really breaking down some barriers that were happening here in London and in Canada in general, and has really motivated me to be strong. And to that end, hand in hand would be my mom, because they both came as refugees here to Canada, and with my brother, and just the racism, the intense discrimination, and everything that they fought through and yet still persevered, and even throughout this whole situation that we're living in, they're just like, this isn't so bad, we've lived through worse, we're fine. It's and just like that strength that I just, oh my God, like it just reminds me whenever I'm feeling a little bit low, I feel like my mom just kind of slaps me across the face with her words to be like, we raised you to be stronger than this, and you're stronger, don't worry. And so like those are the two people that really motivate me the most, and make me realize who I am if I'm forgetting a little bit. um, and then otherwise, I would say, just women in general in the industry, they motivate me so hard, and continue to motivate me to advocate for that, because there's not a lot of females in, let's say, executive roles or leadership roles, especially in the non-artist side. So, at record labels, at, organizations in general, music presenting organizations. And so those women who are really making those strides are really influential to me. For example, Isabel Cisterna in Kitchener, who is the leader of Neruda Arts. She's the founder of Neruda Arts, and they do tons of culturally diverse programming in the area. And I believe we're one of the first to do that, if not the first. Yasmina Proveer, who was actually our rapporteur this year at Global Toronto. I mean, she founded Ashe World Fest, which now with her co-founder, Claudia Bellatelli, they're doing amazing female first, female led programming, and they just did their conference called Empowering Women in the Music Industry, and it was just incredible, the programming that they did there. And so I think just, females in general, just, I applaud them for what they're doing to change the world. So I think those women that really, really are continuing to persevere and advocate despite what it could do to their career if they speak out, those are the people that really motivate me to continue my work.
I love to hear that. First of all, the parents being part of that top 5, I'd love to hear that, because having those parents who are close and can share those gems with you, very very powerful. And then as we're talking about all the women in the industry who are just breaking barriers basically day by day by day, it is like it is incredible to see. And you mentioned something about them speaking out even though it could be hurtful to their career. I think, to me, that is what's extremely important as well. This
Hmm.
every time that happens, just showing how possible that is, showing what can be done. Because you're right, we don't see that as often as we do, especially on the non-artist side. On the artist
Yeah.
side, we've seen it definitely a lot more. Especially I've seen a lot more people that I've been working with. But on the non-artist side, it seems to be few and far between. So I definitely am happy to hear that. Now, when people get to $100 million, it seems like they have to buy an exotic animal. Now, I'm not there. I don't. I don't have this email. I don't. I don't.
But you're close, right? You're close. You're almost there.
In spirit, I'm very close. And it seems like these $100 million dudes, $100 million women, got to buy exotic animals. Whether it's Justin
Yep.
Bieber with his monkey, Michael Jackson with his monkey, Mike Tyson with
Hmm.
his tiger. So when you get to that
Hmm.
$100 million level, is there an animal that you have in mind?
I have two in mind. The first one is a tiger. Yeah, for one, that's my symbol. The tiger is my symbol, especially based on my year when I was born. And I've just always liked them. I think they're beautiful, and I think they're incredibly fierce and can be gentle, but like, have that veracity, and they're just gorgeous animals. But on the flip side, I love sloths. I think they're really awesome. They are who they are. They're gonna be who they're gonna be, and they're gonna grow moss on their back if they want to grow moss on their back. Sometimes you just want to be lazy and do nothing, and I respect that hard.
I love that bar. You said they are who they are. They're gonna be who they're gonna be. Oh my god,
Yep, yep.
that's a good one. So we got tiger. Listen, definitely the first sloth we've had of this question at all. So you're definitely making history with that.
Nice.
A tiger and a sloth. I feel like there has to be a way they can coexist. That seems like a super fly backyard you got going on right there. Just having
I
it.
feel like the sloth could just like chill on the tiger's back, just
Yeah,
like be buds.
exactly. And I feel like they both sleep a lot, so they could have that in common.
Totally.
There seems to be some common ground there. So I like that. A sloth and a tiger. Very, very interesting. It every time I think of a tiger now, I can't help but think of Tiger King. And
I know. And I was just gonna say I would have said that before Tiger King, I swear.
I believe you. I believe you. I think
Yeah.
you would have. Like I could feel that the tiger is something very, very close to you. But it's like they just kind of ruined tigers for me. It's like seeing a pair of shoes that you like and you see someone put it on with a bad
Hmm.
outfit and you're like, oh, I don't want to see that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
tigers have a different vibe now. Hopefully we can have someone just reverse that whole Tiger King thing with
Well, I
tigers.
think Princess Jasmine from Aladdin too. She has
Oh
Raja. So
yeah, that's a good. And I just saw the live version one recently.
oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's a good one. Now tigers are fly, man. Tigers are just such a vibe, such a
Yeah,
vibe.
I agree.
Um, this is the last one, and you've already dropped a bunch of gems today. So I'm very excited for your answer for this one. We have a
Okay.
segment on the radio show called Wednesday Wisdom. It is brought to us by our boy Brandon Gibbs at Build Your Greatness, and he has a new quote or saying he says every single week that kind of keeps him going through the week, keeps us going through the week, and gives you that extra motivation when you're feeling a little low. So, is there anything that you either tell other people or tell yourself that keeps you going through the week?
Um, yeah, the first one that comes to mind would be slow down if you need to, but don't stop. So I use that a lot for I run a lot. So and that's been my you're using different words. My parallelogram moment. That's what I really yeah, that's been my therapy throughout this parallelogram period. And I definitely use that because I sometimes really need to push myself because I used to hate running. But I admired runners and I liked that whole lifestyle thing. And I was always wishing I could be one of them. And then sometimes I just want to stop because I'm tired. I work a lot. And so, but I say slow down if you need to, but don't ever stop. And I think that that goes the same for any work that you do, especially when it comes to any job where you really have to advocate, where you have to push forward and strive, because if you don't do it, who else is going to? Sometimes no one else will if you stop. So just slow down if you need to, but don't ever stop. Take some time for yourself as well, because I think that's really, really important.
That definitely was one that hit me. Slow down if you need to, but don't stop. When I used to run cross country, that was something I kept in mind. I always felt like I didn't have the stamina, but I'm like, just don't walk. If you don't
Yeah,
walk, you can do all
exactly.
right.
Yeah,
And
like just don't walk. Don't like just completely stop and just stand there. But no, just keep moving.
keep,
Just keep moving.
keep moving. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love that. And you talking about, you doing a lot of running during this pan pizza. And it's like running is something that's been big for me as well. So you saying that just hit me right there. And especially talking about slow down if you need to, in the
Hmm.
rest of your life as well. Because I think that, for some people, they've had a lot of more of a break than they've usually had in terms of working from home. But for a lot of us, it's been just a different version of busy. Working.
Sometimes I feel like it's busier because, you're typically I don't know, I found that in my work I would need to get together a lot, in meetings to discuss partnerships or things like that. And so you'd go to a cafe and chat or go for lunch or, meet up somewhere. And that takes time to get there, to meet, to leave and go somewhere else. But instead, now it's one meeting right after the other. And it's just like sometimes there's no breaks whatsoever just because we book wherever we can, we fill that up. Or at least I'm that type of person where yeah, if I see a spot that's open, I'm like, what can I fill that with? Instead of, oh, maybe I'll just take a nap. And sometimes I should do that.
No, that's super important. That's why I thought that was as a very special gem because I'm like that as well, and that's something I've gotten from my mother. My mother, she runs two businesses. She's always been just a go getter. Like anytime you see her, and I'm like, you need to sleep. Like if you don't sleep, this is not gonna last as long as you want it to. And
It's true.
it is like kind of an inherent thing that you see your free time. Okay, what can I put in there? Oh, I got 20 minutes. Let me go research this. Let me do this. So if you always do that reminder, slow down if you need to. So I love that one for Wednesday Wisdom. I really enjoyed your conversation here and enjoyed you joining us on the cool table and in the crowd.
Likewise.
Can we see how much ice cream you have left?
I don't have that much. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, so you actually did
Let's
pretty
see.
good.
I have to admit I ate a little bit before.
You know what? That matches with your brand. You are a mint chocolate chip person. So
What
obviously,
can I say?
you
It's a
know,
little bit melty. That's when you know it's like real good
yeah,
ice
yeah,
cream.
yeah. Honestly, it does make sense for a mint chocolate chip person to be a tad bit dishonest. Those two things somehow go together. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Either way, I'm proud of you and you've done well to
But I
eat.
came clean. I came clean. This is the thing.
You came clean, you confessed, and to even eat more than one spoon of that ice cream
Mhm.
is impressive. So
Thank you.
impressive nonetheless. For anyone who's made it this far into the podcast, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. Leave us a rating and a review, 5 stars, not a single star less. And of course, follow us on Instagram at the Cool Table Live, on YouTube at the Cool Table Live. Hopefully, we can get to do this again in person, and you
I
can
would love that.
take down the Evas, and you can
Yeah.
drop even more gems. I'm just excited for what everyone can learn the next time we talk. So I'm excited for that. Where can people kind of follow you or get involved in anything you're doing, or even just support what you're doing?
Yeah, I think I love that. Supporting what we're doing is so, so important. Please just go to smallworldmusic.com or at Small World Notes on Instagram, at Global Toronto on Instagram as well. I mean, we're continuously doing programming with Small World Music, for example. Like we have so many cool programs that are coming up. Our first two live shows are coming up July 2nd and 3rd with OCAN and Borderless at Canadian Stage in High Park. So those tickets are on sale soon, I believe, and will be nice and intimate shows, but outdoors. And then, of course, at Sunfest LDN on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So Sunfest is happening July 8 to 11, and it'll be 2.5 hours per night, 8 to 10:30 p.m. And we have over 30 bands that are performing, international and national bands.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna put links to all those, in the bio for this, in the description for this. So if you listen to
Amazing.
this, you wanna, hit any of those pages, all the links will be in the description here. And last but not least, big shout out to OCAN. Love OCAN very much. So big shout out to OCAN, friends of the show. But until next time, know yourself, know your worth.